Welcome viewers to Bodhi Unified Flow. Here we simplify complexity and amplify performance. I am absolutely thrilled to be your host for this masterclass today. We are tackling something that literally transforms how organizations operate on a day-to-day basis. We're diving deep into the 5S methodology: sort, set in order, shine, standardize, sustain, visual management, and 5S, enhancing communication through visual tools. Now, I know what you might be thinking. A lot of people mistake 5S for just some glorified housekeeping program. Well, today we're going to completely dismantle that misconception. We are going to see how it's actually a rigorous, foundational lean tool built to surface abnormalities and fully optimize your cognitive and physical environment for high-performance work. So, let's get right into it. To make sure we hit all the crucial points, we've structured this explainer into 6 focus parts. We'll start with our learning objectives, explore the foundation of lean stability, decode the 5S methodology itself, unpack the visual management framework, see how we can enhance communication through these visuals, and wrap up with a summary of our cited references.
All right, let's kick things off by establishing exactly what our goals are for this session.
Our objectives here are highly targeted. First up, you're going to grasp the 5S methodology for what it truly is: a powerful, lean tool designed to expose and fix problems rather than just sweeping them under the rug. Second, we're going to understand how to eliminate workplace waste, or as the Japanese call it, muda. Third, and honestly, this is where it gets really fascinating, we'll learn how translating physical order actually creates incredible cognitive clarity for everyone in the workspace. And finally, you'll discover how visual tools establish real-time transparency that drastically accelerates your team's decision-making process. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by a chaotic workspace, these takeaways are basically your roadmap out of it.
Moving right along, we need to talk about the foundation of lean stability, specifically how we identify and eliminate workplace chaos. Because the root cause of all that instability is a concept called muda. This is the Japanese term for waste. But we aren't just talking about literal garbage or scrap material here. Muda encompasses any activity that consumes resources without adding an ounce of value to the customer. Think about that for a second. Every single time you have to search for a tool, or file is misplaced, or you're just standing there waiting for an approval because the standard isn't clear, that is muda. It's silent, it's totally invisible, and it just drains your productivity. The entire 5S system was historically developed inside the Toyota production system to violently eliminate this muda.
To really understand muda, we need to look at the 7 classic wastes: overproduction, waiting, transport, processing, inventory, motion, and defects. What's super interesting here is how workplace chaos specifically triggers 2 of these: waiting and motion. When an area is disorganized, workers expend completely unnecessary physical motion, just searching for tools, materials, or information. And that extra motion instantly translates into waiting time, which obviously delays the actual value-adding work. 5S gives us a structured, practical path to attack these specific wastes head-on.
So, how do we actually do this? Let's decode the 5S methodology and walk through the 5 sequential steps to structural order. The complete framework is brilliantly simple but requires real discipline. We start with the original Japanese terms and map them to their English equivalents and core actions. We move from seiri, or sort, where we ruthlessly remove unneeded items. Then seidon, set in order, which is all about defining precise locations. Next is seiso, shine, for systematic cleaning and inspection. Then we lock all of that in with seiketsu, standardize, creating visual rules. And finally, shitsuke, sustain, which is the cultural discipline to maintain and improve the system. I want to stress this: these aren't a menu of pick-and-choose options. They are sequential, highly interdependent steps. If we look at this as a pure progression, it flows perfectly. Step 1, sort out the unnecessary. Step 2, set those remaining vital items in order. Step 3, shine and inspect the area. Step 4, standardize that optimal setup. And Step 5, sustain those new habits. By moving through these phases systematically, an organization takes a totally chaotic area and turns it into a stabilized workstation where any deviation from the norm is immediately visible to literally anyone walking by. Let's break down a couple of the most critical elements of these steps. The absolute crucial point of the very first step, the sort phase, is evaluation. You literally have to systematically evaluate every single item in a workspace. Unneeded tools, they get red tagged and removed. Why is this so incredibly powerful? Because it instantly eliminates the clutter that is hiding the tools you actually need. By stripping away the non-essential stuff, you're carving away the physical noise and instantly eliminating all that wasted searching time. And once you've sorted, you move right into set in order.
This is where you use fantastic visual tools like the shadow board. A shadow board has the physical outline of a tool precisely where it belongs. Tools are placed closest to their point of use, ideally within arm's reach depending on how often they're used. But the real genius here is the visual communication. With a shadow board, it is immediately painfully obvious when a tool is missing. It forces a response without a single word needing to be spoken.
Now, we all know a very common failure point. Things get clean, and then a week later, they immediately fall back into chaos. That is exactly where the fourth step comes in. Seikeishu, or standardize, is the governor of the entire system. It uses tools like job cycle charts and responsibility matrices to assign crystal clear ownership. It takes those 5S duties and maps them across different roles and shifts. By baking these duties right into regular job descriptions, rather than treating them as some annoying extra chore, standardize establishes the rules that make the first three pillars repeatable and entirely predictable.
Now let's shift gears and look at the visual management framework, moving from that physical order into true cognitive clarity.
This framework, which is adapted from the visual management expert Gwendolyn Galsworth, perfectly illustrates that the 5S methodology we just went through is only the first level, visual order. It is the absolute foundation. Built on top of that, we have visual standards, which give workers immediate visual information to support their tasks. Moving up, we get to visual metrics. This creates total transparency across the workplace, so any abnormalities are highlighted and you can take corrective action instantly. And finally, at the very pinnacle, we have visual guarantees. This involves mistake-proving devices, often called poka-yoke in lean terminology, which reduce human error to a minimum by making it physically or visually impossible to do a task incorrectly. So 5S is powerful for sure, but is really just the gateway to advanced visual management.
Let's explore that further. How do we go about enhancing communication through visuals by integrating sensory information into our processes?
Think about the stark contrast between a typical environment and a lean one. On one hand, you have a clean workspace. It might be neat, it might look tidy, but it probably still relies on dense text, verbal instructions, and people constantly asking questions to get things done. On the other hand, we have a true visual workplace. This is a sophisticated information management strategy that integrates sensory information directly into the physical processes themselves. It relies on self-service visual clues determined ahead of time to completely minimize your reliance on spoken or written instructions right at the point of use. To put it simply, a clean workspace looks nice, but a visual workspace actively communicates with you.
So what do these visual communication tools actually look like out in the wild? Well, here are 4 highly effective examples from the research. First, we have job site information centers. These are centralized hubs right at the workplace that communicate overall site plans, schedule status, safety updates, and 5S audits to both the workers and visitors. Next up, Kanban boards. By using color-coded cards and columns, Kanban visually tracks work progress through various stages and instantly exposes any bottlenecks. Third, before and after photographs. These are brilliant because they prioritize visual communication over dense text, giving your staff an immediate, unambiguous benchmark of what the standard should look like. And finally, digital interactive SOPs. Lots of modern organizations are using tablets to display standard operating procedures, which guarantees that the standard is always current and accessible exactly where the work is taking place. All right, as we bring this all together, let's jump into our summary and cited references to wrap up this masterclass. Let's revisit our core takeaways to make sure we've absolutely nailed our learning objectives. First, remember that 5S is not just a cleaning exercise. It is a foundational lean tool rigorously designed to eliminate muda or waste from your environment. Second, it achieves this by establishing strict physical discipline sequentially through sort, set in order, shine, standardize, and sustain. Third, standardize, or seiketsu, is the essential governor. It uses tools like responsibility matrices to ensure long-term accountability so you don't backslide into chaos. And finally, visual management is the powerful communicative layer that sits right on top of this physical order. It drastically enhances workplace transparency, speeds up decision-making, and gives you real-time feedback on your production status. Everything we've unpacked today is firmly grounded in established lean literature and operational management research. The key references that inform this explainer include the foundational works of Osada, Michel Grief, Suzaki, Mondin, Galsworth, Baju, and colleagues, and of course the core philosophies of the Toyota production system. I highly encourage all you practitioners out there to explore these texts for an even deeper dive into lean dynamics. But before we sign off, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought. Take a look at your own work environment right now. Based on everything you've learned today about muda, shadow boards, Kanban, and the true power of a visual workplace,
How will you transform your workspace from a chaotic room into a highly communicative engine of performance? The tools are right there in your hands. Sort the unnecessary, set your standards, and let your workplace speak for itself. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep standardizing, and we will see you in the next masterclass.